another edition in this 28th anniversary series of the Berks Jazz Fest. This is brought to you on behalf of the Berks Arts Council. And I'm here with the People Chronicles. We do our story series. It's kind of a backstage pass to the Jazz Fest, and we talk with people who are involved in a number of capacities. And this is a first in the whole series. We've had a lot of repeat guests in different roles for the Jazz Fest, but this is an inaugural, and not only event for Jazz Fest, but for the Backstage Pass as well. So let me introduce Josh Taylor, and you are a guitarist with the Hot Club.
Hot Club of Reading, yes.
Hot Club of Reading. See, now I left Reading out because Cammie Harris is with you, and you are the executive director of the Women's Club of Reading,
Yes.
Center for the Arts.
That is correct.
So how long has that been around?
The WCR Center for the Arts has been around since 1916, so a really long time.
Really?
Yes.
How many people are coming in and saying, I never heard of this? You've been around since 1960. Wait a minute.
It was previously the Women's Club of Reading from 1916 to 2004, and then it was actually taken over by some citizens or community leaders who wanted to keep the doors open in the historic building. So they took over and it became a nonprofit in 2004.
Which, by the way, we are sitting in the Women's Club of Reading Center for the Arts. You said it's a historic building. Can you give me a little snippet of that?
Okay, well, it was built previously it was a post office. The actual grounds was actually the first post office in Reading. And I believe that was sometime in the mid 1800s, I'm not really sure. And then after that, it became a mansion for some time. And then it was the Men's Club of Reading, which became the Why Missing Club. And then after that, the Women's Club took over.
That's quite a history.
Yes.
So how long have you been involved, Cammie?
2 years in April.
2 years in April. You're the executive director. It became a nonprofit in '04. What's the mission, if you will?
To preserve the historic building for the arts and for the community.
Mm-hmm. And this is your first year with a partnership with Berks Jazz Fest, Boscov's
Yes.
Berks Jazz Fest, I should say.
Yes, it's very exciting.
And that brings us to Josh Taylor. So Hot Club of Reading.
Yes.
And that has a whole lot of personnel changes, depending on where you're performing. Is that a fair statement or no?
We have a smallest unit that we take out, which is a trio, which is Chris Heslop on saxophone, myself on guitar, and Trey Lurg on bass. Then we add Kenny Garrett on multi-instruments. He plays accordion for this group, violin and guitar. And then my son Josiah Taylor plays guitar with us as well.
You know, I saw Josiah in the lineup, and I didn't know if that was two brothers or father-son.
That's my son, yes.
What's it like to play with your son?
It's interesting. It's great. This style of music they call sometimes hot jazz, sometimes gypsy jazz, gypsy swing. And I had played this for years, and I guess it was just beat into his head. And so he's 16, and he's very, very well versed in the style already, and it's kind of a passion of his now.
Well, that's pretty cool, and would you say unusual for a 16-year-old to be passionate about swing jazz, gypsy jazz?
I'd say so, yeah. For any kind of jazz, I teach through Reading Musical Foundation and do outreach for them, and I always try to hook kids on jazz. Some that sticks to, some just could take it or leave it.
I'm hearing that a lot as we go backstage and we talk with the different guests, teaching, education. Passing it on.
Yep.
That's a real important component for Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And personally, it seems to be in many ways, and you're doing the same thing, preserving what's here, passing that on and sharing it with the community.
Yes.
So this performance, this inaugural partnership between the Center for the Arts and the Hot Jazz.
Hot Club
Hot
of
Club
Reading. Of Reading, yes.
There's too many here.
Yes.
Hot Club of Reading and the Jazz Fest. This is the first year, and that performance will be Thursday, April 12th, I believe.
Yes.
That is correct, at 7:30.
So what are you going to do? I hear this gypsy jazz, and I'm not sure. What is gypsy jazz?
So Django Reinhardt was the originator of this music, and in some ways he created the genre. He was a true gypsy who lived in Paris and played this in different configurations, the Hot Club of France, and that's how we kind of got the name.
Okay.
There's hot clubs throughout the United States and other places, and he kind of started this whole thing. It's a little different than regular jazz. He was trying to copy Louis Armstrong, so they use stringed instruments, primarily guitar and violin, and upright bass. Now we're going to add accordion as well as saxophone.
That's an interesting mix.
Yes.
An accordion in there.
Yeah, and for this particular show, we have Julian Lebreau, who's a virtuoso, who's we're very pleased to be playing with. He's played all over the world and is just an excellent player. So it should be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to that. I would encourage you, get your tickets early for this one. And this year at the Backstage Pass, we have these series of questions, and it's interesting as we put these forth, the different answers that come out, because it's not a right or wrong question, but it really is kind of stitching together that fabric, that quilt of jazz. So Cammie, we'll start with you. And just generally speaking, as we just talked about, there's so many genres of jazz. What does jazz mean to you? What do you think of when you hear jazz?
I'm from a place called Red Bank, New Jersey. So jazz means Count Basie, because that's the home of Count Basie.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's probably a more common one. You think of that innovation, Count Basie, and that's a kind of big band sort of jazz.
Sure.
So in terms of being executive director and really kind of getting yourself involved in this Women's Club of Reading and the Center for the Arts and preserving it, what would you say the legacy is?
I'd say continually engaging the community and finding more ways to have events and people come to see this beautiful facility.
Well, you're doing that too.
Yes.
Because as executive director, now you've aligned with the Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest, so to cement that partnership with this event coming up, I'm assuming you've enjoyed concerts at Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest. What would you say one of your highlights have been?
Other than the music itself, I think just the experience of being part of the actual event. It's always live and busy downtown during the Jazz Fest, which I enjoy, just walking around and going to see different places and visit different centers that are other than a WCR. So it's just a fun time.
That is a big highlight for many as an audience member. We're hearing highlights from performers, but as an audience member, to actually be up close and personal in these small venues like this, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And you don't often get to see musicians in such an intimate atmosphere.
Exactly.
So that's going to make this quite a show. Are
Absolutely.
you ready?
Oh yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
We're looking forward to it.
So what would you say, Josh, is when somebody says to you jazz, what does that mean to you?
Jazz is a pretty big umbrella that covers a lot of different styles of music within the context of jazz, I guess. Sometimes I think if they can't categorize a music, they call it jazz.
Never thought of that.
But to me, it's improvisation, using a lot of different influences in the music. Always with a blues base, but Latin music and many different types of music included there.
That's the first I've heard that, always with a blues base.
Well, I think jazz, in my opinion, has started with a lot of the early blues and kind of transitioned into what it's become. But yeah, I find a lot of blues influences in jazz.
Huh. And you're the first one that I have heard say, mention that French connection, if you will. Mm-hmm. I think of New Orleans when I think about that French connection, and I never really paired it with jazz. And it's almost obvious once you pointed it out.
Yeah. Like I said, with what we're going to be doing, a lot of that music was, he was trying to emulate Louis Armstrong. So Louis was one of the originators, or kind of the originator of a lot of the jazz as we know it today, and especially the hot jazz.
Which brings us back to you again. Mm-hmm. How has jazz impacted your life?
I've started as a student of blues and rock as a kid, and I've kind of evolved into be a jazz player. I continue to just be blown away by the musicians that play it and the improvisation and the creativity within the genre. Jazz Fest is great just to see different people, and when we can, if we're not playing, to get to see some things right here in the hometown. So it's great for that as well.
This is probably a tough one as a musician because there's so many, so I don't know how you choose, but who are one or two of your key jazz mentors?
Django Reinhardt, as I mentioned previously, Wes Montgomery. Those are two of the biggest influences I have.
What would you say is your jazz legacy?
I would have to say working with students and trying to expose students to the music and try to kind of promote jazz through their playing and kind of their path in music.
Is it fair to say there's not a whole lot of outlets, if you will, for jazz music and performance. And maybe that's an unfair statement. I'm thinking, I'll tell you right where I'm going with the Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest. It seems like such a terrific opportunity. Are there many performing venues and exposure outlets for jazz?
We stay busy through the year. Without a doubt, Berks Jazz Fest is the highlight of our year every year. I mean, it's 10 days, and most of the time we're playing most of those days. And just seeing other musicians getting to play, getting to hang out and go see shows, it's just a great time. I'd like to see obviously more of that throughout the year, but there are some great venues that promote jazz and have jazz on a regular basis.
I certainly think we're lucky in this area to have an event of this size. And since that's one of your highlights, let's drill it down. What's one of your favorite highlights personally from the Jazz Fest?
Wow.
A favorite, doesn't have to be the best one, a memorable.
I'd have to say every year is kind of a highlight. When you're in the thick of it and you're walking through, and whatever hub that you would be in, any of the venues that have it, it's just great to see that many fans of the music, that many players and everything else. There's been many highlights of people I got to play with, but as far as the whole event is just there's always something that comes out and it's just, wow, what a great week. Or 10 days,
It's a feeling, and I've gotten that from both of you. This Jazz Fest is a feeling, and you know what the feeling says? Don't miss it. You want to be part of this. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate it. We are backstage once again. Thanks to the Berks Arts Council for making this possible here on the People Chronicles. The Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest coming soon. Get your tickets.